Just when I thought we were going to have a drama-free end to the year for CSGO, we got hit with one of the most insane debates I've seen in some time. Is Shroud better than Simple?
This is what I'll say. The shit that Shroud could do in CS, Simple can never do. That's what I'll say.
Yep, Freakazoid has once again found himself in the hot seat after claiming that Shroud is better than Simple. Is there any validity to that claim, or was it just bait? And is Shroud's response arrogance, or are people reading into it too much? Let's find it all out and put this thing to rest. Alrighty folks, before we get into it, I wanted to remind you all again that we now got merch. It is sexy, beautiful, unique, good quality, and I think you guys would all love it. We got our Touch Grass hoodie, our classic esports crew necks, and so much more. So if you're interested, head into the description and follow the link to our store and maybe pick up some stuff. Alright, before we dive into this mess, allow me to set the stage. Shroud is an absolutely massive Twitch streamer who moonlights as a Valorant pro, and he is widely known for being a f***ing monster at almost every game he picks up.
I hope I didn't take any kills there.
Dude, there's so many people.
Next to his undeniable FPS talent, Shroud also played CSGO professionally, but hung his hat up back in 2017. Simple, on the other hand, is the opping star of Na'Vi, a major winner and player of the f***ing decade.
Nasty stuff, but Simple's gonna get himself. Oh! That is something special.
So if Simple might be CSGO's greatest of all time, how the hell did we get to this debate? Well, last week, CSGO pro turned streamer Freakazoid was streaming with his brother and some other usual suspects. For those that don't know who Freak is, he was most famously a part of the 2015 Cloud9 roster. He now spends his time getting absolutely yoked while streaming CSGO and Valorant. Anyway, the group was watching a pro match while reminiscing about NACS when Freak said this.
I'm telling you, the shit I've seen Shroud do is...
Well, Shroud is just like pleasing to watch, dude. Like
you would never...
that clip of him in Battlefield.
This is what I'll say. The shit that Shroud could do in CS, Simple can never do.
An edited version of that clip was then posted to Twitter days later, and a few people in the community went insane. Some seem to agree with Freak, at least ironically, but the majority of the replies were just clowning on him. Freak later replied to the tweet himself, claiming that the clip was taken out of context. So, being the astute reporter that I am, I went back and checked to see what the entire conversation was really about. It started with the boys discussing who the best CSGO player was of all time. Names like Stu, Elige, and Twist were thrown around until they got onto the topic of who the best player was skill-wise. That's when Freak mentioned Shroud.
You don't think Shroud has better skill than... Okay, none of you guys played on the team though, so you weren't graced to be able to watch this.
Okay, no,
He had way better skill than everybody that you guys just mentioned. By far.
Freak continued to wax nostalgic about Shroud in the 2015 glory days until they somehow got into the topic of Simple and what role he would take if Monacy ever came back to Na'Vi. Later, in a reply to his chat, Freak implied that Shroud was a better rifler than Simple. That is when we get to the clip that has since gone viral. So the context I think Freak was referring to is the fact that he was specifically talking about Shroud's ability with a rifle, and he thinks that was missing from the edited clip. Regardless, I'm not too surprised about this take from Freak. He played with Shroud during this time, and he also has a lot of respect for the NA guys he came up with. On top of that, Freak has historically never shied away from giving his thoughts on Simple. With all that being said, I don't think Freak meant to do any harm with this comment. This was just the memories he had of his former teammate and opponent back in 2015. As it stands, Simple has endless accolades, including, like I said, Player of the Decade, and he is better in almost every aspect. On top of that, Shroud only played at the top level for a few years, and although he's an undeniably talented gamer, he's considered by some people out there to be pretty overrated when it comes to CSGO. Now, could you make the argument that back in 2015, Shroud had more mechanical skill with the rifle than Simple? Sure. Would I care to find out? Even if it was possible? Probably f***ing not. Nevertheless, this was just a harmless argument, and the online discourse should have ended with the memes, but this is the internet after all. And honestly, it probably would have ended there if Shroud himself didn't end up replying to the tweet saying this. A lot of it comes down to passion. I'll never be as passionate as Simple. Therefore, I'll never even come close to the talent he has, in my opinion. Now, this seems like a harmless, respectful way of giving praise to a fellow player, right? Well, no. Apparently not everyone took it that way. Don't get me wrong, tons of people saw it as a classy response, but a few out there thought it was a bit of a cop-out from Shroud. CSGO broadcaster Maui Snake took offense in particular, replying, "The hilarious reach here is that Shroud implies he is more naturally talented than Simple, given that a lot of it comes down to passion." Maui continued to double down, and while I do understand how Shroud's tweet can be interpreted this way, I don't think that it should be. I think Shroud was simply trying to make it clear that there was no debate. Listen, I don't know Shroud personally, and I'm not his PR guy, but he just doesn't strike me like the type of person that would use the "I could have been the best, I just didn't feel like it" card, even though it may have read like that to some people. But then again, that's also just my take, and this whole debate has revolved around people's different interpretations about what's been said. But I do think Maui's tweet brought up an interesting conversation, one about natural talent. I think suggesting that Simple is only as good as he is due to some unquantifiable natural talent downplays the blood, sweat, and tears he's poured into this game. Now, I don't think anyone who reacted negatively to Shroud's tweet is stupid. They understand how much passion Simple has for the game. I just don't think they know how important that is. I think that once you get to a certain level of competition like Shroud and Simple have, you start to appreciate that raw God-given skill isn't really all that. Having the commitment to becoming the greatest in the world is a remarkable talent in its own right. But just to put a pin in it, Shroud is not better than Simple at CSGO. He may be in literally every other game, just not this one. There are a ton of CSGO players with cracked aim, big brains, and other X factors, but Simple has it all, plus a once-in-a-generation level of determination. Will that stop people from debating Simple's greatness in the future? Absolutely not. This is the internet, come on. And CSGO. Not a chance. So, since that is the case, and this will happen again, I'll see you on the next one. I do not think that Shroud is the most overrated CSGO player of all time. I think that's rude. There's people that see him with rose-colored glasses, obviously, but a lot of that is just people liking to start shit. Is he overrated? Sure. He didn't really play that much, didn't really win that much, but who really gives a shit? I mean, that's the ultimate answer. Who gives a shit? Who?